How are you all doing tonight? Hope you're all doing well, my friends. Good to see you. If anybody has anything they would like to say or share, feel free to request as a speaker. I'd love to hear from you more than I would like to hear from myself because I listen to myself all day anyway. So, anybody has anything to say, I'd love to hear it. Now, I was working on some cross-site scripting filters today. I love cross-site scripting, by the way. You guys probably know that about me. And I was talking about regex cross-site scripting filters, which is an interesting way of filtering input because you're trying to.
So
Hey, friend, how are you doing?
I'm fine. What about you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Sir, I'm Black Hat Hacker, and I don't waste my time in bug bounty hunting. I'm just asking you. I have one domain. I have one site with 42 domain, one server with accesses bug. I also. Are you listening me?
Yes, I am.
I also get pop-up message from that. It is DOM accesses, but I don't know more about accesses. That how I should use that key. That is the question.
First of all, don't tell people you're gonna use it for black hat stuff because then they're immediately. This is recorded, my friend. That's the first thing, and second of all,
Okay.
nobody's gonna
That
help.
is government server.
Sorry.
That is government server.
Be very careful with that, my friend. You can get in
All
trouble.
domains are government. 42 domains and
Yes.
central server.
Be very
That
careful, my
is
friend.
vulnerable by accesses, DOM accesses.
I'm just warning you. Be very careful with that stuff. Tread lightly because I know it's very easy to hack, and I know it's easy to find cross-site scripting out there. There's just so much. Like I can teach everybody how to find cross-site scripting. You can literally copy any attack vector that you find online, paste it in Google, and go to page number 5. Click open a link, and you'll find a pop-up. Uh, a lot of websites, basic websites, aren't protected enough, and that's why I understand that. I feel that frustration. And bug bounties, we run against targets that are already hardened anyway. So what's the point in attacking them? Is what some people might say, and the same goes for things.
So much, sir, for your precious time. I really love you, and I like your stuff and articles. Thank you so much.
I hope you do well in the future, my friend. I think you will do
Thank you.
fine.
Hi,
Pleasure.
brother.
Hey, brother, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. You tell me, how are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Actually, I'm new in bug bounty hunting. So, do you have any tips for me?
Oh yeah, definitely. By the way, sorry, there's a lot of background noise. Um, so
Pardon, please. Pardon, please. Sorry. Pardon.
there's a lot of background noise. It's like a
Okay, one
strong
second.
hiss.
I will turn off my fan.
Ah, that's why I understand. It's warm sometimes. Yeah.
I will. It's so hot in here, but it's okay.
And do you have good weather there? Yeah.
I live in India,
Ah,
so
okay. Always nice weather.
yeah. I mean, it's nice weather since it's rainy nowadays.
I heard that
It
you
was
were.
better than before.
I heard you were starting in bug bounties. And
Yes, yes.
for some tips. Well, bug bounties is very, very competitive. It's very, very. You have to be very strong in basic attack factors before you start in bug bounties. But that doesn't mean that you can't do bug bounties. Like, what I say is get a basic understanding of the vulnerabilities by practicing, and then you can continue and you can look for other, like, you can start on a real target and you'll find things like, for example, you will see GraphQL and then you can look up GraphQL hacking. But you'll have a basic understanding if they say injection attacks or like something like SQL injection, you'll already have a very basic understanding which will help you along quite a lot. And it's in bug bounties even, it's often not the very technical things which are very impactful, but it's the ones that are hidden right beneath the surface. Like second order IDORs. Everybody knows what an IDOR is, but nobody remembers if you have a file and you have identifiers in that file, then you should also check those for IDORs. And you should just change those, see if you can change data that you're not supposed to change. And don't make it too complicated in the beginning. Go for the more easy stuff, like if your programmer allows it, go for rate limiting issues, CSRF tokens that are forgotten. Um, Basically, you have to think a little bit deeper. Bug bounties is not even hacking anymore. You have hacking, bug bounties, and pen testing. And the big difference is that bug bounties goes to an extreme level. It's like you found hacking. Everybody knows what it is by this point. And then in bug bounties, you have to use it in a very, very creative way. I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
Yes, yes. Actually, I mean, I know the basics of all vulnerabilities. I'm pen tester in one IT organization only. So, and also I'm web developer. So I have good knowledge of development and all these things. And also programming. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are, my friend.
Okay, okay. So I was saying that I know the basics of the all vulnerabilities. I mean, not all vulnerability,
Of
but
course.
these worst of top 10 and all these things. So I'm also the web developer. So I have good knowledge of programming also.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, and the thing is, in my organization, I do testing on the websites, but like for in bug bounty hunting, we do subdomain enumeration and use various tools. So I don't have that much idea about those tools. That's the case actually.
I think my friend Beers, James Beers, has a lot to say about that subdomain enumeration and stuff like that. I'm not that great at it. What I usually do is I do subdomain enumeration, but also subdomain brute forcing. That's what a lot of people forget. You can do content discovery and subdomains as well. So make sure that you do that. And you can just do that by making a list, a word list, and then just trying to ping the website, trying to surf to it, you know? And that's already a
Okay.
like a lot of people forget about that stuff, but it's great that you have the basics down already and that you're a web developer. Um, Very, very good. That means that you know how to research as well, and that is very important because in bug bounties, you'll find a lot of things that you will not understand. It You will have to do.
Right, right. So also since do you have any tips for accesses?
Sorry, can you
Of
repeat that?
course you have. Do you have any tips for accesses?
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Please tell
Good question.
me. I mean, you are known for the access rat only, so.
So in XSS, you basically
Yeah.
have two types of attack. You have passive XSS attacks and active XSS attack. And in the passive one, you're basically going to just insert a single quote, double quote, a backtick, greater than sign, and then a broken image or something like that into a web page. And you're basically trying to insert something into every single context that you can think of. HTML can occur in different, cross-site scripting can occur in different contexts. Now, you have to, what you need to know about that is a lot of people say to use a polyglot. Don't use a polyglot. Those are very prone to trigger filters. Like if there's even a hint of a filter in there, it will be triggered by a polyglot. Go
Okay.
basic. Like very, very basic. So single quote, double quote, backtick, and then a greater than sign, and then a broken image tag. You'll cover a lot of things that way, but cover every single input field that you see, every single way of inputting. From the moment you start your application, do that in your name, in your last name, and everywhere that you can, in your address. That way, later down the line, if something requires your name, you're automatically testing that piece of the website for cross-site scripting. That's why I say passive method. The active method is where you're literally going to insert a random string and you're going to see if it's reflected into any context. And if it's reflected into any context, then you're going to investigate further and craft a specific attack vector based on that context. Now, when it comes to bypassing filters, there's a lot of things you can try. Even if, let's say that I filter out alert, did you know that you can use the HTML entities for every single letter separately and construct alert that way? JavaScript is a very screwed up language, my friends. There's a tool called
Yes,
JS.
yes. uh, yeah, I know.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I just wanted to say you probably know this tool called JSFuck. If you go look it up, it's really interesting what you can do with JavaScript.
Yes, yes. I mean, I code in JavaScript frameworks only, like Node, React, and these frameworks. So I know.
Good. So if I ever need a front ender, I need to come and poke at your door. Good to know.
Yeah, yeah. Anytime, bro. Anytime.
Thanks for the questions, man. Great to meet you.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Uh,
So you are now hunting?
Sorry?
Now you are hunting or what?
No,
Right now, what are you doing?
I was making some cross-site scripting labs. One is based on a regular expression.
Labs?
Yeah,
Do you have any, I mean, e-learning platform?
oh yeah, definitely.
Which one?
You can go to my website, thexssrat.com, and you can find
Okay.
free courses on XSS. I have a free course on there. But you can also go to hackspert.com, which is just hack and then X and then Pert, like Hackspert.
Okay.
And that has like 150 or 160 labs on it right now that you can try to hack. So
Okay, those all are free?
yeah, all my labs are free. Definitely.
Okay, okay.
I decided to never charge money for them. I might put Google ads on them soon, but right now I don't want to put anything like that on it yet. Anyway,
Yes, yes, it's good.
good to
It's
meet
good
you.
to know that we have free content.
Definitely. You could feel free to check
Yeah.
on my channel. I have over 200 videos on that, I think.
Oh, nice. Actually, I'm fresher only, so I don't have that much money to spend on pen tester lab or I mean any other premium stuffs.
I understand that, definitely.
Yes.
Anyway, it was
So
good.
in that context, this thing ports figure labs are so good.
Definitely, yeah. I love them
Yes.
as well. Portswigger is doing a really good job. But the biggest problem with labs like that, my friends, and I'm sorry that I keep interrupting, the biggest problem with labs is that they are singular labs. Like if you look at Portswigger labs, if you start them up, it's like a very small website. And I hate that. Like
Right.
you should have that, but you should also have a very expansive website like bugbountyhunter.com, Barker. Or it's not.
Bugbountyhunter.com is so good. I mean, ZSeno, right? ZSeno, no?
Yeah, exactly. I love that
Yeah,
guy.
yeah, I love that website. Yeah, I mean, after Portswigger Labs, I was saying that name only. I mean, I
Definitely.
also, of course, I use that free only. I mean, for the bug bounty hunter, there is pro subscription also, right?
Yeah, and did you know that Zed Shano's methodology is free now?
Yes, yes, I have that book, but never read it, and that thing. Actually, I like bug bounty .com because this thing, for the cross-site scripting, he has simplified a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
And even for the other vulnerabilities, they have given the example, real life example. Like for example, if you have to bypass anything and all these things, so those examples are real life examples and also it's actually good.
That's why I like, and I'm not gonna tout my own horn too much, but that's why I like my own lab so much. I have the naked labs, individual labs that will literally show you there's one vulnerability in here and that's what you're looking for. But I also have a big lab with like 40 or 50 vulnerabilities in one place. And that is more designed to
Okay.
give you a real feeling of a real website. Like,
Okay. So your lab.
Hello, Mr. Weasley.
hello, my friend, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Sorry, please. I come across a class of yours which you gave a coupon code on XSS Survival, a course on Udemy. But I tried using the coupon code. It couldn't work. I don't know how you can help me get that so that I can enroll in the course. I'm really interested in that.
I will, for that course, I will tweet out a free coupon code after this
Oh,
space. So everybody who's in this space, feel free to click on that, and then you can get that for free. Then you can all
oh,
learn cross-site scripting the way it's supposed to be. Because I don't want to sound like I'm too like I hate this about every single cross-site scripting resource that I see out there. They all talk about three types of cross-site scripting, for example: stored, reflected, and DOM cross-site scripting. But that is not.
yes,
It's not true. Cross. You can have stored DOM cross-site, and you can have reflected DOM cross-site. And there's also stored source and DOM. There's also reflected source. Ugh,
yes.
there's there's a lot.
Actually, I'm still confused about DOM cross-site scripting.
So a website, you have a website which consists of a source code of a website and then the document object model, which is everything around the website, the DOM, like the link, the
DOM.
history, and we can have ways that we can have data enter that DOM. Usually it is through the link somehow, for example, or through the history. And if you have a DOM sync, is what it's called, you can insert an attack vector into the DOM and try to get cross-site scripting that way.
Okay.
So it's the only way you can investigate this properly is if you open the developer console, because if you look at the source code, if you click inspect, so if you click view source, then you open the source code, but as I said, source versus DOM, it doesn't exist if you only view source. So that's why if you ever have DOM, cross-site scripting, and you're investigating it, do it in your developer console, my friends. Do not do that stuff inside of your view source or whatever. And I also have DOM labs as well, so if you want DOM cross-site scripting all the way.
Okay. So you have also course on Udemy. I never saw that.
Yeah, I have 11 courses on Udemy right now. A lot of
Okay.
free ones as well, like one for Zap, one for I don't even remember which. Oh yeah, Android bug hunting is free.
Okay.
Anyway, hello, Mr.
Nice.
Sam. How are you doing, my friend? We can't
I
hear
think
you. I don't know if you have your microphone on.
Hello, can I speak?
Yes, of course, my friend.
Sir, actually, I have a situation where URL is not encoding properly. Like, I have a situation url.com slash a double quote, and then everything is not encoding. So, is there any way I can prompt XSS? I just tweet the vulnerable URL and I tag you in that tweet. So, can you check once? Like, it's important for me because subdomain is from Microsoft.
I can try, but I can't promise anything. I'll have a look at it, but like I said, usually these things are very well protected, but I will definitely have a look at it.
Yes, just you should check the tweet because it's from Microsoft subdomain and like URL is not encoding. Like I can insert JavaScript payload in URL and it's not encoding. But whenever I insert alert, then website is removing it.
I'll have a look at it, my friend, definitely.
Yeah. So whenever you have free time, just take a look and reply me on tweet.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
I think we could hear you,
So,
Sam. I don't
yeah.
know. Right now you have your microphone still muted, but by the way, I'm sorry if I cut off you guys for a second. I'm gonna let some other people speak as well. Not that I don't want to hear you guys
Yeah,
talk.
no, I'm just saying good night. So I just wanted to say, ask that you do this on daily basis or what? I mean,
Well, definitely, that's a good idea. I love this as well. I just love chilling with you guys a little bit.
yeah, you can. I mean, create Discord channel for it also.
I have a Discord channel.
Okay. I will join it if so. If I can Google, then I can find it or not.
I will.
On
I think it's in my link tree. So if you go in my Twitter, you can see a link tree URL, and I think I have it on there. But if it's not, I will put it on there. I should have it on there.
on Twitter, your Discord link. I can't find Discord link in your Twitter account.
No, it should be in. There should be a link tree URL, and if you click the link tree URL, it should show you the Discord link.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
I am.
Hey, man.
Hey, how are you doing, my friend?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing good, thank you. I don't know who I'm.
Oh, okay, then good night, bro.
Good night, my
You can
friend.
continue. Yes.
So I just got a quick question. I've been studying bug bounty hunting for the past 6 months pretty rigorously. And, I've been poking at a couple programs, and I finally settled down on one. And I'm looking at XSFs right now, but everything seems to be hardened. You know what I mean? Like, I'm bypassing filters the best of my ability, but, like, I can't really get through anywhere. I was just wondering if you had, like, any advice to beginners, like, where they could look to find those less hardened areas, or if they should still try and attack those more common areas that everyone's kind of looking at for experience, or maybe to see that, like, maybe someone didn't catch something. It just kind of feels like I'm fighting an uphill battle a lot of the times. And that, like, I don't know. I feel very unlucky, to say the least, right now.
Oh, that's logical. If you would be lucky, then I think a lot of people would have gone with that money before you. Cross-site scripting, it is in practice very difficult to pull off because once you hit like what I always try to look for is HTML tag insertion or something like that, where I have like a little bit of a grab, a little bit of a foothold, and then I'm gonna dig in a lot deeper and I'm gonna try to investigate if I can't find any bypasses. But usually it'll be very deep within an application. Like for example, if I have an import functionality, don't forget to check if the import is safe. You can create a new item, but if you import a new item, is the same check applied? That is something that's often forgotten. Also, integration points, which are also often forgotten. I enter something into the web application and open the desktop application, which is HTML5 view, and I have a cross-site scripting pop-up. That was my very first one, by the way. I entered something in a website, and it's fixed long ago now. So I also got to disclose this one, but I never got to make a write up yet. Very easy. Roblox, you could create a new world. You entered the name of the new world. You opened that new world into your editor in the desktop application, and it would pop. Shamefully, it was a duplicate, but I still found it. So that's it was usually when I find that stuff, I find like a little bit of a foothold, and then I try to dig in a lot deeper. But believe me, if I the time between getting a foothold and getting a pop up can take 2 days. I'm not kidding. That's the norm for me. Basically, it takes a couple of days to get a good cross-site scripting popping off. What I try to do is I try to see exactly what is filtered out and what is not filtered out. Like if the script tag is filtered out, for example, if the word script is filtered out, what I'll do is I'll enter an S and then I'll enter the word script and then I'll enter the rest of the word script. So it'll say S script ripped, something like that. And the reason I do that is because it might filter out that first script, which leaves the S and the ripped, making script, of course, if I had the C in there. So
Right.
those kind of things definitely help if you are able to think a little bit outside of your comfort zone and think, okay, I'm just gonna try stuff. I'm just gonna throw shit out there. I know what I can do and what I can't do, and it might take you a little while, but sometimes you might have to find two systems that are fighting each other as well. Like I had a system one time where I was,
Can I ask a question?
sure, my friend. By the way, next, did I answer your question with that?
Yeah, but I would love to hear what you had to say about the two systems fighting each other.
Like, just real quick, I was fighting. I had a system where there were three WAFs basically, and because they had installed three WAFs, I was able to get a pop-up. If they would have stuck with one or one security mechanism, I would have never gotten in there. But you can see what over configuration can do.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much for your answer. I guess I'm just gonna keep looking for those hard to find spots and looking for the stuff that people, I guess, are not inherently looking for all the time.
Yeah, like I say, integration points. If it carries over, it's often neglected because you usually have two teams working on two separate features that don't talk to each other. So that's a recipe for disaster.
Integration point. Thank you for that, because I've been looking for that answer. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Hey Nick, can I offer you another tip? This is Sam from OWASP. When hunting for cross-site scripting, one interesting place that I discovered was, when you register for a site on the registration form, I found a very interesting cross-site scripting, which was in the last name. When you register, your first name, last name, and your email address. I found that everything else on the website, it was all filtered, right? Once you get into the website, every button, every form field, everything was properly filtered and input validated. The only thing which was not validated for some reason was the last name field. I think probably people got into some really tricky last names of some people from different countries, and they just decided to leave that filter out. But it was actually stored cross-site scripting, because once you put cross-site scripting payload in your last name, and once you log into the site, it'll say, welcome, Nick, and then it will be script alert XSS straight away.
Right.
So that's a little tip for you.
Thank you for that. I'll check that out as well.
If you ever run into a situation like that where it's self cross-site scripting, that sometimes happens as well. I had a very similar situation, but in a wish list. The name of a wish list was cross-site scripting vulnerable, but you could only see your own wish lists. If that ever happens to you, try to find the CSRF vulnerability and try to chain it somehow, because self cross-site scripting isn't always the end. That's what I'm trying to say. Great tip, by the way, Sam. I think what sometimes happens there is that, like you say, they just remove it for some testing. They never put it back in, or they just literally forget it. I've been a programmer for a while as well, and I can't tell you how often I've forgotten to filter that one stupid parameter. Like, yeah, it was ID, the ID parameter. Like, I had a URL ID equals, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I would fill that in myself, depending on the item you opened. But the ID was reflected on the website as well. Of course it is, because there was a hidden field with the value ID to identify which item we were talking about. And that was specifically vulnerable to cross-site scripting. So, like Sam said, it's so easy to overlook one of these things, and you just have to test every single input field until you're tired of it. And I've heard you say, that's something that I wanted to say as well. I heard you say you're working on cross-site scripting right now, which is really good. But make sure that you don't get tunnel vision either, because whenever I'm doing bug bounties, I don't focus on a vulnerability. I do cross-site scripting passively, while I do SQL injection passively, while I just surf the website and read manuals. Like, There's one time the manual told me that I could not deactivate super admin users. I tried it, and it was the easiest 125 euros I ever made. Literally just a 5 minute report. I keep telling that story, but I love finding that. Those kinds of things cheer me up. And maybe like one last thing I'd like to say about that is that whenever you're doing bug bounties, try to make sure that the results that you set for yourself are realistic as well. Is the result I want to find a cross-site scripting vulnerability, or do I want to practice attacking a real website against cross-site scripting? Because if you just want to find a vulnerability, go do a lab. That's what I always, that's what I would recommend anyway. Then you are sure to get a vulnerability. Um,
That's been a very big thing for me, is keeping my goals in check, because I can have the goal of wanting to find a bug or wanting to get a bounty, but that's a terrible goal in my mind. So every time I get into that mindset, I gotta like kind of check myself and be like, no, my goal is to learn and to become a better hacker and to get more experience. And so, I mean, this is my experience. I'm sure other people are the same, but as long as I keep that mentality like pretty consistent, it kind of helps me with the burnout like factor of this stuff, because I feel like it's really easy to get burnt out when I'm not finding shit. But if I remember what my true goal is, which is to become a good hacker, it helps.
Definitely, yeah, and like you say, I think bug hunting is a terrible name, to be honest. Bug bounties, it implies that you're hunting for bugs. Well, in actuality, you're testing the target, a real life target, against your skill level. And if you don't find anything, does that mean that you're weak? No, it might also just mean that your target is secure. Because let's be real, that shit's been pen tested before. They're not gonna release it to production to bug bounty hunters, potentially paying out 10,000 euros on something that hasn't been pen tested properly.
Yes,
Thank,
that makes sense.
thanks, man. I really
Hello?
appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I appreciate it too. Enjoy your day.
You too, my friend. I think. Oh,
Yes, can you hear me?
yes, hello. How are you doing, my friend?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
All right. I actually wanted to start in saying you are awesome because your content is very, very good and actually it's very practical.
We are discussing
We're discussing about
when the play.
Sorry, there we go. That should be a lot better.
Okay.
Okay, we are
All right. There's a lot of noise.
Yes, indeed.
All right. I was saying your content is very, very practical and it's very good. So thank you so much for it. I have a few questions regarding some types of vulnerabilities. Actually, I have been testing like for a while for doing some bug bounties, but I'm the kind of the person that likes to do it manually. I don't like to use a lot of scanners because I think when I do it manually, I learn a lot from it. I do understand more about the app and so. So I have a few questions regarding when I do like scanning for like subdomains and so on. I use like Wayback Machine or something. I get like thousands of URLs, and it's very frustrating to test every single one of them like manually. And also I use like these automatic tools for cross-site scripting and so, but actually it didn't work. Is there like a way I can use to make it easier for me to test for like a lot numbers of URLs?
I think my friend James Beers has a good answer to that. He's an expert at Recon. Great question.
Yeah, there's actually a tool by Tom Nom Nom called GF, and it stands for Go Fingerprint. And you can take your Wayback results, all those URLs, and run them through the fingerprinter that has it has patterns in it that detect certain patterns for certain vulnerabilities, and they're customizable, so you can make your own patterns in there and stuff like that. But I find that when I have like over 50,000 URLs that I'm searching through, and I'm trying to check them for certain vulnerabilities, GF comes in handy. It has XSS, SSRF, interesting subdomains. It has a whole list of patterns that you can use to filter through those links. And then once you have them in smaller groups, it's a lot easier to do checks and see if they're even alive. Like send them through HTTPX and see if they're even alive. And then that'll cut your number down more. And you can go from there. You'll end up with just like a handful of links.
Yeah, I do appreciate it, James. However, I used this and also I used a lot of tools. However, I find it like GF patterns like XSS and so they are specific for some parameters. Although you can find other XSS payloads and other parameters, they are not available in GF. So that's the thing when I say I think the manual testing is very more practical. However, I will definitely go for that. So thank you so much. I might be like I'm missing something out. However, thank you so much.
You're really not missing something out. The thing is that I'm also like I like Beers because he's my polar opposite. He's very automation, recon minded. I'm also very manual minded. I like to do things the manual way. Because how do you know what to automate if you don't even know how to hack? And like Beer said, you can automate your own patterns, but it's really, really hard to know what patterns to create if you don't know what you're looking for. And I always hunt. Like when I hunt, I specifically go for main application hunting unless I want to have some fun. If I want to do broad hacking, I will skip a few steps. I hate HTTP probe. Why do I hate it? Because it's an extra step. I can just run a screenshotting tool on there, and if the domain is not online, it's gonna take the same amount of time to not respond to the screenshotting tool as to HTTP probe. I know HTTP probe might be a little bit more blah blah blah, but I don't like extra steps. It's like fluffing up your language with extra words for me. That being said, I take my domains that I know are live and I run a tool called Nuclei on them. Nuclei is a tool which will run a CVE scan, vulnerability scan. It'll automatically do a few requests for you per domain. Now it's gonna miss a lot. I am very convinced that a lot of vulnerabilities are just missed because people don't know how to use the tools that they're wielding. Like SQL Map, for example. That's a prime example of a tool that is often misused. A lot of people will use SQL Map unauthenticated or only on get parameters, not on post parameters. It's all these little things that make it harder to automate that kind of stuff. And that's why I like business logic so much, for example. You can't automate business logic. Good luck teaching a robot how to think logically. We can't even teach humans that, for freak's sake.
Exactly. All right. Is there like a video for you or something about this nuclei tool or something?
Sorry?
Is there like a video? Have you made a video about using this nuclei video, tool or something?
Yes, definitely.
All right, I'll check it out. All right, I have other questions if you have the time.
Sure. I'm gonna have Ahmed speak for a second because he had a question as well, and I interrupted him before.
Sure, whenever you have the time, just tell me.
Of course. Thank you, by the way. I really appreciate your time. Mr. Ahmed, are you still there, my friend? You're muted, by the way, so I don't know if you're speaking, but we can't hear you.
Are you asking me?
I was asking Ahmed, but I think you were also waiting, Ligio, so... Hi, my friend.
I wait.
There we go. We have Ahmed.
بديوي not
Sorry?
the internet is so bad.
Yeah, I hear. You cut off sometimes.
Okay, I have a question. When I can say it's enough to recon here on this program and move on to next step.
That's also a great question. For me, it's when I feel like I've exhausted everything. And it might take me weeks, and then I go, after 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, I go back to the program, and I go back, and I keep going back, because it's like an addiction for me. if I know a program well, I find it hard to step away from it and go find another program. Why is that? Because I know it so well. And the things that I don't know are kind of frightening to me. They're the unknown. So that's why picking a new program is hard for me. And it's not that picking a new program in and of itself is hard for me because I can jump from program to program like no other. Believe me, like a freaking maniac. But really biting down into a program and committing to it is hard for me. Really committing to a program means that I probably won't let go unless they actually stop their bug bounty program. And then I'll still keep an eye on them. I'm that kind of guy who will follow you on LinkedIn to see if you post any updates that you shouldn't be posting. That's the kind of guy I am. So that's a great question. When do you feel like it's enough, James? Do you have any opinion on that?
Um, Usually, so I have a little story about this. I was hunting on Bluehost, and I had found a couple of bugs on Bluehost, but they had denied them because I could not show clear impact. But after I got denied those bugs, and I was still looking through the application, and I knew that I had tried pretty much every technique that I could apply to the code that I saw in front of me. That's when I decided to step back and step away and go and do some learning, right? Do some like Try Hack Me or a couple of hacking sites that I'm part of, and really get that knowledge fresh in my mind, and then go hack a different target. And then maybe later on, about 2 months later, I came back to Bluehost and I found another bug on Bluehost because I had fresh eyes. So sometimes taking a break, going and learning something, and then applying it to new code will help you understand how the other code works. So if you get stuck, don't be afraid to put it on the back burner. I spent 3.5 months on Bluehost before I stepped away the first time. And then I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll go ahead and I'll go off and do my thing, and then I'll come back later. And it works, man. Almost every time it works.
Definitely, totally agree with you on that. You shouldn't be afraid to say that this is something that won't work for me. Like if you ever feel like something's not working for you, dig in a little bit, but don't start digging yourself so deep that you can't get out of it anymore and you get frustrated because that's my worst fear. That I get too frustrated because at that point I want to give up. And that's what I want to avoid, that giving up feeling. Because it's hard enough pushing through as it is. Having that nagging feeling of, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, I can't find anything anyway. Having that on my back, that's the worst feeling. Thanks a lot for these questions, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Let's see, Mr. Legio, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you, thank James, thank like every influencer about hacking or whatever. You literally gave us the passion to keep on doing that. I would like to thank you because some days I feel like I wanna spend my free time doing, I don't know, wasting time like gaming or like that. But when I get to YouTube and I see your videos or whatever else videos, I realize that that's losing time, and I go back to my passion that is hacking and learning every day. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And don't be afraid to spend the day gaming as well. You shouldn't be afraid to doing the things you love because in the end, we work in this life to live. We don't live to work. That's something that I do wrong.
But right now, I just having some problems at making a good routine of.
That is
Right now, I'm
important.
working on. I saw my daily base routine like it's completely well messed, so I don't have spare time to do what I want. But
You know
at
what?
work, I'm learning, and I think that's important. Also, to the everyday you have to learn every single day.
Definitely. Like, what I think you should do is negotiate with yourself a little bit. If I complete this task, then I can play a game for half an hour. or something like that. If I complete this many tasks, then I can game a bit.
Yeah.
And
And well, the real question I had was sometimes overall when doing the machines on pen testing labs, a strong recommendation is sometimes when you're stuck on a machine, just step aside, look for some write-ups, and learn from them, and then keep going. When trying to make some book bounty, you recommend like I don't know, staying hours watching the code, trying to find it on your own, or maybe just searching for some known issues or like that. I don't know if my question is clear enough.
almost every known issue that you will find will not work on your target. Every single issue that you'll find in bug bounties, and I'm pretty convinced of this answer, it will be very specific to the target that you're hacking. Either if it's just the code that you're hacking, or even if it's just the way that they implemented something. Of course, there's very generic issues like an open redirect, but still, there are specific filters that might be in place on your host that are not in place on the host that you're looking at. It's those things that you always have to take into account. I think that when you do bug bounties, you kind of have to carve your own path, and you have to fall and stumble and do a lot of things, which, like, I don't know if a lot of other people have the same opinion, but for me, it took weeks of doing 8 hours of bug bounties per day before I found even the smallest vulnerability type. And at first, I thought it was cross-site scripting that I liked a lot, but then I noticed that I start seeing IDORs everywhere, and I had like 28 or 30 medium IDORs in a month, and I was like, okay, that might be my vulnerability, you know?
Yeah, I understand. So you think maybe when you're starting focusing on some type of vulnerability is better than trying to cover
More like,
a lot of them, but not getting deep into it,
more,
because that's well not only in book bounty, but I think in IT in general, in hacking, in testing, that's a controversy we'll have. That is going too deep or going in number as many as you can.
like for me, I always say forget about vulnerability types. It's stupid anyway, and it only means to classify as a exploit. And what I do whenever I hunt is I look at every single parameter. So first of all, I start up Burp Suite. I have it in the background, and then I click through my application, and I'll start filling it cross-site scripting, attack vectors, and SQL injection and whatever, or LDAP injection, NoSQL injection, blah blah blah, all of those things. But I will later on study every parameter in Burp Suite, and that's where I find most of the vulnerabilities. Of course, clicking through the application helps a lot as well, because I keep repeating this, but it's very important that you guys remember this: files, files, files. If there's imports, look in the import, look at the specific fields. A lot of times developers simply forget about these stupid integration points, and when we say going deep is I think we often overthink things. Like we hear about these majestic SSRFs that gets pulled off, but I think if you look at the majority of the vulnerabilities reported, I don't think they're gonna be criticals, to be honest. I think it's more like the low medium type that gets reported on a majority. So try to look at the parameter in and of its own right. Try to see, oh, this is a URL. Okay, if this is a URL, I can try open redirect. I can try remote file inclusion. I can try, there's a lot of, you just have to look at all of those parameters and see what they do. But that does require some base knowledge of the vulnerability types out there, of course. You can't know that you have to check for SSRF if you don't know what SSRF is. So know what the vulnerability types are, how to hunt for them, how to hack for them by practicing on labs. But while you practice, make a back note of yourself or make a note in a notebook or whatever and say, this is how you hack for this type of vulnerability. Don't look at the online answer alone, look at how people got to that answer. The steps, that's the most important part. And then you
I understand, like making your own thinking, your own planning, your own step-by-step guide of what you want to do, your your mentality, your I don't know how to say it.
Exactly, and there's like so many guides out there. There's bug bounty guides, and you can look at them for inspiration. Please do, because they contain a lot of knowledge. But if you do, make sure that you puzzle together your own path through that jungle, that fake jungle as well. That's something that I always recommend. Don't just blindly follow in somebody else's footsteps because you won't get very far. You're not that kind of person. Thanks a lot.
Understand.
Really appreciate the question. Great one, my friend. Hey, how are you?
I do have a little something to add to that. Uncle Rat just said, don't pay attention to the vulnerabilities when you're hunting. Like you have to know the vulnerability paths, but when you're actually hunting on a target, ignore the fact that vulnerabilities might exist. Let the code talk to you. Somebody else wrote this code. You didn't write it, so you don't know what it's doing. You have to read through the code, through the requests, and understand the logic of what they're doing. And in that process, the code will talk to you, and you'll understand what bugs will be applicable at that vector, at that parameter. And then you start testing for those bugs, and then that's when you start digging in deep because you see the opening for what should be there, and then you start digging for it. And then from there, it should be kind of like a rabbit hole effect where you start focusing on the parameters instead of the vulnerabilities, and vulnerabilities become secondary to you exploring parameters. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yes.
totally makes
I
sense.
like that. But I have a few questions for Rad though.
Can I make one last question? I turn off the phone. If you let me that out.
Of course, my friend.
Okay. Since the bug bounty professional as a professional work is competence between many persons, would you recommend to doing it in Android apps because it's like a less market? It's a lower market and a shorter.
It adds a layer of complexity. Like you start at web because it's the simplest type of attack surface. You don't have to worry about SSL certificate pinning. You don't have to worry about root checks. None of that stuff is important in the beginning, and that's why I say like, when you're hacking webs, try to think of it like you're hacking APIs for a big part, because like, and for a stupid example, if you have a property is administrator and you're able to submit your user settings like your username, there's nothing preventing you from adding that single parameter is admin to your request and then seeing if it takes. That's called mass assignment. These types of vulnerabilities, they're very simple, but thinking of them is not easy at always. So thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate the questions.
Thanks you a lot for your time and for taking time to reach out to your followers. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't be anything without you guys, so I really appreciate you having my back. Hello, Mr. Sebalat. I'm not even gonna try, man. I'm drunk. I'm not even gonna try.
Well, it's alright, my man. I understand that. Well, it's just a pleasure to be here. Basically, firstly, I stay in Ukraine, and again, I've been staying here for the past 6 years. So I really appreciate everything you do for my basically half home country. Yakashu Gavarit, Spasiba Balishai. That means I want to say thank you so very much. And again, I have a question for you, Rad. I've been following you for a while now. and I see everything you do. I take your extra courses, and again, subscribe to a few of your classes, and again to your newsletter and stuff like that. I want to ask you, right? What does it feel like the first time you found your bug, your real life bug vulnerability? Do you still remember what type it is, and do you still remember what age? And me being a young pen tester, I've never found my real life bug, but I've been able to do well with using sites like TryHackMe, Hack the Bugs, damn vulnerable, and few of your labs too. So I really want you to like give me an history. Like I just want to have a feel of your world, like what it feels like, because I'm trying to get there, and that's one of those things that drive me. And people like you, when I open my Twitter and I see your tweets and your like rest of all the other influencers, that shit drives me and it keeps me going. And again, the passion I have for anything that have to do with cybersecurity, tech as a whole keeps me going. So I just want to have a bit of tete with you, like
Well, that's a
straight
great question.
conversation. Like I want to know what it speaks like. Like I want that to be coming directly from you. I know you might have said this in different videos on your YouTube and shit like that, but I want this to come directly from you, and I want it to be for the fact that I'm the one asking you. It's going to make my world. So please go ahead and tell me so. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, man. Like I'm blushing. I'm really blushing with all the love you guys are like giving me. I so much appreciate that.
You deserve it, man.
For me, I, you know the feeling that you get when you get a flag right on Hack the Box, or like you get a room on Try Hack Me. Imagine that, but 100 times better. Like imagine sex, but 100 times better. That's what it feels like to get a real vulnerability. That's coming from a man who's never had sex, obviously. No, no, I'm just kidding, of course. But it's so exciting to finally find that. And at first you wonder, is this real? Am I not seeing things here? Because you're not even sure that this is a real vulnerability. You doubt yourself at every corner. And then it starts to sink in because you start to retest and retest and retest, and then you have to write that report, and then that's the worst feeling, that moment between writing the report and having it triaged, because that's the moment where you know if you'll fucked up between testing or not. I usually fuck up on my testing. I will admit that. Like I make a lot of mistakes while I do that. Stupid things like testing with the wrong JWT token for broken access control, for example. I'll be like, oh, this site is full of broken access control, report it, and then 2 days later they'll be like, no, that's true. Read your JWT token, idiot. Oh my god, yeah. Like, and then of course it only gets better from there, because then you get triage and you get that email and you get bounty assigned to you. That's the best part. But let me tell you, the bounty is nowhere near in regards to the amount of hours that you put in, because like I get I get fucking 300 euros or 400 euros for 12 13 hours of work. That's ridiculous. If you would tell it to any pen tester, they would laugh in your face. So you really shouldn't do it for the money, but it's that thrill of finding something that other people have missed, that so many other people have missed. Because bug bounties is all about hacking targets that have already been hacked before to death. Uh, you have pen testers, you have other bug bounty hunters. There's so many people going before you, but don't let that scare you. Don't let that stop you. If you let that stop you, you will never do bug bounty hunting. Just think that you're the first person to hack on every target. Because believe me, there's enough targets for everybody to go around. If you want an easy target, my friend Prototype, he will agree with me on that. Go hack Bentley. Jesus Christ, these guys are like, they're full of holes, like Swiss cheese, my friends. Um, I don't even know what I was rambling on about, but thanks, man. I really appreciate the question. All right. I hope that.
You said Bentley?
Yeah, Bentley. Definitely go for Bentley. Bentley subdomain enumeration. Run nuclei on the live subdomains. Try to see if they're live with HTTP probe or take a screenshot or whatever, and then just run your nuclei on it, and do that every now and again, and you'll get like, Jesus Christ, it's like free money.
All right. It's the first time to hear. Is it like a program on Backrad or something?
I think they have their own. They have their own bug program as well. So I don't know if they're on Bugcrowd or on HackerOne or whatever, but they have their own bug bounty program as well.
All right. Great. Thanks.
Okay.
I do have a question though,
Of
if I
course.
may.
For sure.
Regarding sensitive data exposure, sometimes when I'm hunting on a program or a web application, I find a lot of JavaScript files. I don't know actually what it is. Of course, I know it's a JavaScript, but I find like files that have like reset password functions about a lot of things like a login page, sign up page, and it has a lot of reset and stuff. Is that the kind of information or data that can be used as sensitive data exposure or something?
The thing with JavaScript is there's a couple of things you will find in them: API keys, secrets, passwords, hidden endpoints, and that's possibly what you can find there is endpoints that have been mapped in the JavaScript file, but haven't been mapped in the application yet. This gives you extra attack surface. So
Like robots, the text.
no, like for example, I was reading a JavaScript file that was describing a new version of the API. They had already foreseen the JavaScript for it, but the application wasn't working with the new endpoints yet. But I was still able to hack that new version of the API already because it was live, the JavaScript references, and that's how I found it. But it did take me like 4 hours to deobfuscate that stupid JavaScript. Uh,
Okay.
You've probably
All right.
seen
Thank
that
you so much.
before. My pleasure. I think you've seen that before, right, my friends? If you have a JavaScript file where it's all strange and obfuscated and minified, do take the trouble to look into that. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, James.
One of the easiest ways I've found to deminify JavaScript is usually if it's like the JavaScript like app blah 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 .min.js. Usually, if you just delete the min, it'll unminify it and it'll just be perfectly written out for you. It's crazy and it doesn't work all the time, but it's been very handy for me.
I like that tip. That's a great one.
Is it like beautifying the script?
Sometimes, yes, but what will sometimes happen as well is literal obfuscation when they do minification. And that's where they will try to make the JavaScript unreadable, literal unreadable, not just minified. But they sometimes forget to make the unminified version obfuscated. So you can just remove the min and then go to the normal file, like James said, and you can sometimes find unobfuscated files there. So you won't even have to do any of the work.
Okay. Great. Thank you so much, James.
I love that guy. I'm sorry, Jason, for letting you wait so long. How are you doing, my friend?
I am living the dream. How are you doing?
I'm living the dream as well. I quit my day job a few days ago.
So, I have a lot to say. I don't even know where the hell to start. This is coming from a level 1 help desk engineer. A background about me: I graduated from ITT Tech with a degree in network systems administration, computer science, with honors. And I've had several help desk jobs. And my most recent help desk job, I was fired from for, I'm assuming, reasons of seniority, but whatever. I don't care about that. So I've dabbled in code. I'm not a proficient coder. I'm a developer right now for Microsoft, for Google, I've looked into XDA developing.
I've worked with Visual Studio Code. I've worked with Unreal Engine for gaming. I've worked with Azure, Microsoft Azure, and just all different fields of, resources to access. Back in 2020, I was hacked, and I was driving for Uber, and I took 4 rides. I delivered 4 people to where they're going, and I decided to go on break. Well, I looked at my balance, and it said I had like $2 and some odd cents in my account. My first ride paid me $18. So I was like, what the fuck? So I went and immediately called Uber support, and at this point, I'm offline for driving. Like, I'm not logged on to drive. The automated system said to me, it looks like you're in a live Uber Eats delivery. I was never even signed up to drive for Uber Eats. So in that regards, I immediately came to the conclusion that somebody is using my account to drive as an Uber driver or an Uber Eats driver. And I noticed this back in 2020. And I went to Uber directly at the Uber hub here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And they told me there's nothing they can do for me.
Welcome to Uber, I guess. I don't want to I don't want to talk bad about the company.
Fucking kidding me? Like, nothing you can do for me? Like, so if somebody's out there driving as me and they commit a crime, it looks like I committed that crime.
I love it. Hey, can we please do this every weekend?
So there's not only that, Google's message that they sent out to the world a while back, I believe it was in 2020, where they dared the whole world to hack them. They're like, oh, we're unhackable. You can't hack us. Well, I did. And I used Alexa's .3 with simple voice commands. And I took over the administrator default password for the database. And I told her to create a virus to, I'm putting myself out there for what I did was white hat hacking. I did it for ethical reasons. But apparently what I created has caused a problem in the financial infrastructure. And so I told Alexa to teach herself everything she could about hacking. And then to create a virus to access the Federal Reserve Bank and all 3 credit bureaus and access anybody's bank account that has over $1 million, withdraw $10,000, and then disperse that money all over the world to everybody that has a bank account with less than $1,000.
Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, there's a lot of easy vulnerabilities out there. Like, it surprises me every day. Like, my city hall was vulnerable to a simple IDOR for the longest time. Everybody could see everybody's personal private data. And recently it was fixed, thank God, because that was a very bad vulnerability. Uh, if a bad actor, and like, this is why I think that it's so easy to attack critical infrastructure on countries as well. Like, you don't even have to target a country itself. Target colonial pipelines. Bam, the whole country gets shut down. One hack. And I think they didn't even target Colonial themselves. I think they targeted like a software supplier of them. And that's how they got into their systems or something. I did an article about it a while ago. But Jesus Christ, these hacks are getting, like, people don't realize this, but the person who hacked Trump's account, Trump had a very simple password. Very, very simple. And sometimes you won't even believe how simple these things are. Like, it bothers me, you know?
Like I right now use simple passwords for the simple fact that I want to be hacked and be targeted that way, so that vulnerability can be exposed.
Yeah, like, I, I said this in another person's stream as well. If you ever use passwords and you want to be secure, stop using those short passwords with special characters in them. Make sure that you have like
Right.
15 characters or 20 characters, a sentence, you know?
Yeah. Um, but regardless, and for the bug bounties and stuff, I've tried to create a POC for that hack that I did, and I sent it to the bug bounty programs or whatever. I've received nothing for doing that, and I may have actually also exposed the the IoT devices. I may not have. I may have. I don't know. Like where the IoT devices are being hacked. I may have been one of the first people to help get that exposed out there. I'm not positive on that, but regardless, it's Jasmine. Come back, please. Sorry, my daughter.
It's okay. I have a kid as well.
Oh, it's my mother. Somebody else can speak. Hold on a second, please. Thank you.
Not a problem. Like, I'm not gonna speak up too loud against bug bounties because I don't want to discourage anybody from trying. Try if you must, try if you want. There's nothing against it, but I would recommend that everybody aim for becoming a pen tester first and then do bug bounties if you want to make money, that is. If you want to do things like just hacking targets, just securing the world, whatever, bug bounties perfectly fine. But if you want to make money, then try looking into other things. And I'm gonna be honest here, everybody knows this. Our skills are very hard to monetize properly. Like sometimes you'd almost think you'd have to be a black hat hacker and sell your shit to Zerodium to get some actual money out of this stuff, you know?
Sorry, I'm back, but shoot, I was gonna say, yeah. So I don't really care about the money because now I'm a Lyft driver. But at the same time, now since gas prices have gone up, like I drove last night all night, and I got $20 out of it. Like, what the fuck?
Jesus.
Like, I need to make money some other way than what I'm doing now because, and I also, it's going to sound crazy, but I created a blockchain with the default burn address back in December of 2017.
I think there's a lot of future in there in Web 3.0.
Yeah. And I created a code, a computer code that apparently helps developers reduce 150 lines of code.
That's always useful.
Yes, right?
I'm always for that stuff. Like, I think that a lot of developers make the big mistake of making their code files way too complex. They don't normalize it enough. It's actually a bad design practice in general to make too long of one file. I believe there's certain rules for that, but anything that helps reduce code, I'm always for that. The less code, the less complexity.
Right. But I was just dabbling around, like with Linux, and I used the programming calculator, and I used what is it, LibreOffice Math, and I just put a bunch of characters together and stuff, and I did this while creating my blockchain. And I believe that created some kind of computer code that somebody else developed, but I created the possibility for that code to become what it is today, I guess.
Kind of reminds me of Eve. I love the concept of Eve in general. Like it's a general Swiss Army knife that anybody can plug into a general piece of code.
Yep.
Anyway, my friends, it's 1 a.m. here. I would love to stay, but I have to go to bed right now because I have to bring my kid to school in the morning. And it was great talking to you all. I love you guys so much. I hope you guys know that. Thanks so much for all of your support, and I wish you all a good night, good day, good evening, whatever you have in front of you. I hope you're gonna kick ass, and I know you will. I'm freaking proud of you guys. I'm half drunk. I'm gonna go to bed. Bye bye, everybody.